Between June of 2009 and May of 2010, 3 sex workers were killed in the area of Bradford, United Kingdom. With the help of CCTV footage, police would be able to catch the brazen serial killer who styled himself as the Crossbow Cannibal. This is the case of the Bradford Murders. Three prostitutes from the Bradford, United Kingdom area went missing between 2009 and 2010. The names of these women were Susan Rushworth, Shelley Armitage, and Suzanne Blamires. Please excuse me if I'm saying any of these names wrong. I hope that I'm not mispronouncing them. Susan's son said that she had been trying to turn her life around right before she went missing. She had been previously addicted to heroin, but she had sought help to wean herself off of the drug, and she hadn't used in 5 weeks. At the time of her disappearance, she was working as a prostitute. She was 43 years old at the time, and she had only just recently started to reconnect with both her children and her grandchildren. She went missing on June 22nd of 2009. Shelley was 31 years old, and she had been last seen on CCTV footage in the Bradford city center area. She had just recently purchased a puppy for herself, and she was known by others as a fairly normal girl. She was also a prostitute, and she had been having issues with alcohol and drugs prior to her disappearance. However, she was still deeply loved by her family. Shelley went missing on April 26th of 2010. Suzanne's mother described her as bright and articulate. She had been studying to become a nurse, but at some point she got into sex work as well. Now, her family still loved her a lot. They made sure to tell her that she was still loved, that they still supported her, and that she was welcome to come home at any time that she wanted. Suzanne went missing on May 21st of 2010. Now, an apartment building near the Red District of Bradford, United Kingdom, had an apartment building, and in this building there were CCTV security cameras. Now, one of the people that was working as a caretaker of the building, it was his job to review the footage on the CCTV cameras, and what he found was quite horrible. The caretaker discovered footage of a woman running from an apartment. She was chased by a man who attacked her and then dragged her back into the flat. And just a few moments later, he came back out, walked up to the camera, and gave it the middle finger, while also holding a crossbow. The woman in this footage is Suzanne Blamires. The footage is from the day that she went missing, and her murderer is Stephen Griffiths. Griffiths was a man obsessed with murder and serial killers. At just the age of 17, he tried to slit the throat of a supermarket manager because he was caught shoplifting. He received 3 years in prison for this. He was later diagnosed by psychiatrists to have schizoid psychopathy. This was in 1991 when he was at the age of 22. It was after this that he held a knife to a young girl's throat, and he was yet again sentenced to another 2 years in prison. An ex-girlfriend of Griffiths had later broken up with him. This happened after she had seen his flat for the very first time. She said upon walking in, she saw that he had not just a few books about true crime and serial killers, but he had hundreds of them lining the walls of his apartment. In addition to this, he also had a collection of samurai swords and a crossbow. Now, all of this on its own is not necessarily suspicious, but when you add this to his obsession with horror movies and the way that she describes he used to laugh when people would die in these movies, he found it hilarious, he enjoyed it, this was very concerning for her. She decided to break up with him later that night after she had returned to her own apartment, having asked him to take her home shortly after having arrived because of a stomachache. Multiple complaints had been filed upon Griffiths in the past as well by other ex-girlfriends. There were complaints that he had poured boiling water on one girlfriend, leaving her with severe burns. He had attempted to slash the tires of another girl's car, and he also broke a glass and then used that broken glass to cut another girlfriend's legs. People in the same building as Griffiths had filed a lot of complaints against him with management. In fact, they were so concerned that the management decided to ask their employees, their caretakers, to keep an eye on him whenever he was nearby. In addition to this, the previous 2 years before the murders were discovered, Griffiths had been being watched by the police because there were so many complaints against him, because there was such a disturbing past, and there were a lot of concerns that they had. Unfortunately, that didn't put any stop to the murders that he would carry out. At the time of these murders, he was actually a PhD student in criminology, and he was studying 19th century crime patterns in the nearby area. Some of Suzanne's remains were found in the River Aire in May of 2010. This was just about 4 days after her disappearance. Once again, I apologize if I am saying the name of that river wrong. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it, so I just hope that I am doing at least a somewhat decent job. Additional human tissue was found in the same river, and on June 2nd, it was determined that those remains belonged to Shelley Armitage. Now, in addition to this, they also found a suitcase containing tools in the same river. Now, it was also determined that Suzanne had likely died from a crossbow bolt that had been fired into her head. Griffiths was sentenced to life in prison after submitting a guilty plea. The judge who was there that day said that Griffiths had no remorse at all when he submitted this plea. Now, in addition to this, he had told police that not only had he killed these 3 women, but that he had killed others as well. And he also stated that he had eaten parts of some of his victims. He decided to proclaim himself as the Crossbow Cannibal in court. Now, since being locked up for these crimes, Griffiths has tried to commit suicide 6 separate times while in prison. In addition to this, he went on a 10-month hunger strike. Now, it is unclear as to whether or not he felt any remorse suddenly for his victims, if he was doing this because he couldn't cope with what he had done any longer, or if he was just seeking attention. Now, I know that today's video was pretty short. I don't have a whole lot more to add to this. This was a solved case. I wanted to bring you guys something a little different than what I've done before. I have only really done one other solved case so far, so I thought that you guys would like to hear about a case that has answers, especially after yesterday's video where, unfortunately, we believe we know who committed the murder, but there's never been an arrest or a conviction, and justice hasn't been served. So I wanted to kind of take today's video in a slightly different direction, something where, yes, terrible things did happen, but thankfully we at least have answers, and the person who committed those crimes is behind bars. So once again, I just ask that you guys please stay respectful in the comments down below. You guys have been doing a really great job of that already. Welcome again to all the new people. There are still more new people today. It's been amazing. I am so glad to see all of you guys here. Thank you so much for subscribing. And if you guys are interested in subscribing, if you haven't already, if you liked today's video, you guys can hit the subscribe button down below to make sure that you get notifications for further videos from my channel. In addition to that, if you guys wanted to follow me on my social media, that information is in the description box down below. Mostly I post on Twitter and I update you guys in case like a case isn't going to go up on a specific day when it typically would. That's happened a lot lately, like I said in yesterday's video, but I think I have fixed a lot of those issues, so hopefully I will be more on schedule from now on. In addition to all of that, you guys can always find all of my sources pinned to the very top of the comments section below this video. I do that for every single video. I don't want to try to hide where I'm getting my information from for you guys, so if you guys are interested in reading more, there were actually a lot of articles on this particular case. A lot of them covered a lot of the same information, but some of them had something slightly different. So thank you again so much for watching, you guys. I'm glad to have you all here. Yeah, I will see you guys again on Monday for another new video. It should be a book review. Hopefully that all goes according to plan. So I hope to see you guys on Monday for my next new video. Bye everyone.